Now, fundamental rights, they are guaranteed by the supreme law of the land, that is the Constitution of India. And traditionally, these rights are seen as a shield that the citizens have against the state. So, in case the state or public authorities, they violate your fundamental rights, you can directly approach the Supreme Court under Article 32 and the High Courts under Article 226 of the Constitution. These rights that the citizens have to approach the courts in case of violation of fundamental rights are also fundamental rights called as right to constitutional remedies. Now, let me ask you a question. What if a private organization, a private media organization violates your fundamental rights? Can you directly approach Supreme Court and the High Courts? Well, this is what we are here to understand. Hello everyone, you're watching StudyIQ IAS English. I'm Ankit and today we are going to discuss why is Article 226 of the Indian Constitution in news. And the reason why we have picked up this article for our today's discussion is because a two-judge bench of Delhi High Court last week, it upheld a single judge order from the year 2013, and this order, it directed TV Today Network, a private media channel, to pay 5 lakhs rupees in compensation to a victim whose details have been made public, and this victim was a minor victim of sexual assault. Now, this judgment, as we will understand today, has laid down many legal principles that will have implications on press freedom, on your right to privacy, and avenues through which citizens can sue even the private media organizations in the court of law in future in case of violation of their fundamental rights. Now, let us start our today's discussion, but the notes which I will be using for our today's session, you can also download them by going to a particular Telegram channel called as ATS Live, and while you're at it, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel also. Now, this case actually dates back to August 2005. Here, a woman filed a police complaint accusing her own husband who had sexually assaulted their minor daughter. Now, on one hand, the mother, she denied providing of consent to the visiting television crew to air this news on media. And the news channel was Aaj Tak, who broadcasted a segment nonetheless which disclosed the father's name, it disclosed his official designation, they even disclosed the residential address of the family and published the visuals of the house and even the mother's voice. So this, according to the victim and her mother, was a breach of their right to privacy. Now, as I told you, the right to privacy is very essential in a democratic societies like India because it serves as a bedrock of your personal liberty, your dignity, and free expression. Now, the right to privacy, it empowers individuals to develop their identities, form personal relationships, exchange ideas without having fear that they will be unwarrantedly intrude or would have any repercussions based on their own opinions. Now, recognizing this importance, the Supreme Court of India back in 2017, in the judgment passed under the K.S. Puttaswamy versus Union of India case, unanimously recognized right to privacy as a fundamental right which belong to Article 21, that is right to life and personal liberty of the Indian Constitution. And as a result, this right to privacy is an essential part of Part 3 of the Indian Constitution, which guarantees citizens and non-citizens some rights which are called as fundamental rights. Now, naturally, as I told you, fundamental rights are something which are fundamental just because these are protected by the fundamental laws of the land, that is the Constitution. And therefore, citizens perceive that my fundamental right is a shield which we can use against the state. Now, as a result, the mother of the victim, she filed a writ petition against the private television channel before the High Court, and it brought a very important legal question. The main legal question in front of the High Court, whether a writ petition could be filed against a private television channel. And here Article 226 of the Indian Constitution becomes very important. Article 226 of the Indian Constitution, which is a part of right to constitutional remedies, enables the High Court the power to issue writs for enforcement not just of fundamental rights but of any legal right against the state or authorities who exercise or discharge public duties. So the biggest question was a private media channel discharging a public duty? Let us try to find that one out. Now, the court actually, it ruled that the media, even when it might be privately owned, discharges a very essential public function in a democratic setup. So, referring to the previous Supreme Court judgment, the Delhi High Court, it said that the media's have a very important role in disseminating news, and not just that, it also ensures shaping of public opinion in a democratic society, and this constitutes a public function. And as a result, any media organization, it is its public duty to ensure that the rights of public are not prejudiced or injured in a manner of their reportings. So this is what an obligation every media organization has because of the judgment of the Supreme Court in the past. And based on this, the court applied the fundamental rights in a horizontal manner. So what is application of fundamental rights? Now traditionally, fundamental rights have been applied vertically. That is, it gives citizens a shield, a kind of a protective shield against encroachment on their rights by the state. So this is vertical application of the fundamental rights. But here, courts applied fundamental rights horizontally. That is, a citizen can file for violation of fundamental rights against any authority which even might be privately owned. And as a result, horizontal application allows citizen to enforce these rights against even a non-state actor, which here a media organization actually is. And here the Constitution Bench of a Supreme Court back in 2023 in a judgment called as Kaushal Kishore judgment had established a principle that a fundamental rights can also be enforced horizontally against private individuals. For example, even right to untouchability. If you discriminate against a person based on their caste, that is basically you are treating another person as an untouchable, which is prohibited in the Constitution. So here, even that fundamental rights was applied to horizontally, and that is why it has now been made applicable even for violations of right to privacy under Article 21. Now, the Delhi High Court has now extended this provision specifically for right to privacy against the press, holding that the channel's broadcast, which is aired without a consent, would amount to a legal intrusion on any victim's privacy, and therefore it has announced a monetary compensation using its power of a writ court. Now, earlier, why is this judgment of the Delhi High Court so significant? Now, earlier, in case if any of your fundamental rights were violated, you could have approached only the civil courts, and in civil courts you had to file a defamation suit. But unfortunately, we all know in the past, whenever you file a case in the civil courts, those trials drag on for years and years. So even if the victim of any violation of privacy gets a monetary compensation, it would take a lot of years. So that is why here the court has introduced a constitutional angle in this particular case, which enables a citizen who is a victim of right to privacy's violation can directly approach the Supreme Court under Article 32 and the High Courts under Article 226 of the Constitution. Now, what are the concerns associated with this judgment? Now, one of the concerns associated with this judgment that it can be used potentially as a weapon. Now, let us suppose a private media organization, it gives a news, right? In that news, it would be amenable to filing of writ jurisdiction in any of the higher courts in India. So as a result, politicians, corporations, and even public figures can use the decision given by the Delhi High Court last week as a shield to prevent any critical reporting if and when it is done by the media organization under the pretext that this critical reporting is violating their right to privacy. So as a result, what would happen? Due to fear of constitutional courts, the media organizations, the reportings, they would face a chilling effect. What is a chilling effect? Now, naturally, to report any news truthfully, the media organizations, they are very aggressive in nature. But due to the fear of any potential suit that can be filed in the courts, now the media organizations and reporters, they would become defensive. The editorial controls on any publishing of news would become overly stringent, so as that they would be very cautious not to violate this particular judgment. So don't you think this is something bad on the ability of a media to freely report anything in a democratic setup? Because we have seen a media in India is called as a fourth pillar of democracy, but this concerns can be overstated. And here you need to understand the context based on which the Delhi High Court actually gave this judgment. Now, the Delhi High Court was very strict on insistence of consent in this particular case, because the victim here was a victim of sexual assault and she was a minor, and therefore heightened privacy considerations overlapped or overlooked their another concerns of public interest. But on the other hand, if media organization takes a genuine investigative journalism which concerns to any matter of public interest, their right to privacy need not necessarily be protected. So how will that be applied? Let me give you an example. Now let us suppose a politician or a public figure uses his position, or rather misuses his position, to particularly gain an asset from their office. So they cannot hide behind the pretext of right to privacy and claim that their private wealth is their privacy, and they can't stop a media organization from reporting on it the same. Why? Because here the public interest of a position of a public office is more important as compared to an individual's right to privacy. So therefore, courts in future is likely to apply strict public interest analysis before highlighting whether a case deals more with right to privacy, or that case declaration or disclosure of many information is in larger public interest. So this is how the courts will decide on this matter in future. I hope I've made this clear. From this judgment, it has become now a right to privacy which you can even enforce against private media organizations. So in case without your consent a private media organization airs your public details in or your personal details in public, you have a recourse under Article 226 of the Constitution, that is allowing you the right to constitutional remedies. Now this is how the knowledge of polity can be applied in day-to-day news analysis, and this kind of a knowledge is very important if you have to clear UPSC exam. So to clear UPSC exam, what you can do is take admissions in GS-P2I foundation courses. These courses, which are offered in English language also, these are available in evening batches. Now all our batches, either for 2027 or for 2028, all of them are offered in Smart Model. In Smart Model, you not just get structured classes but also mentorship, assessment, revision and test series. Right? Now to take admissions to these courses, we are right now offering 50% off, and to get even more discounts, what you can do is apply the code ATS Live. This will help you fetch the maximum discounts that are available on all our platforms. Now before winding up our today's discussion, there is a very important question that I'd like you to ask. This question is from UPSC prelims examination in 2018. Right to privacy is protected as an intrinsic part of right to life and personal liberty. Which one of the following Constitution of India's correctly and appropriately implies the above statement? Please do let me know the correct answer of this question in the comment section. And what do you feel about this judgment? Also let me know your honest opinions in the comment. And if you want to download the notes which I used just now, you can go to this particular Telegram channel ATS Live and download them. If you face any difficulties in locating this channel, you can always scan this QR code. So this is all from my side for today. Please have a very good day. We'll see each other again tomorrow.